poem by Dr. Charlotte Laws in Alternet. And you need to sit back and take this one in and follow it very closely. It's called, "I Took Down the Man Who Posted a Hacked Topless Photo of My Daughter on the Internet." Again, this is called, "I Took Down the Man Who Posted a Hacked Topless Photo of My Daughter on the Internet." This is what happens when the most hated man on the Internet messes with the wrong mother. Dr. Laws tells us this: I felt like Will Smith in Enemy of the State. I was being hunted, harassed, stalked by criminals with technological expertise. I'd been thrust into unexpected war, exposed, vulnerable, alone, on the front line. I'd awoken to a hideous network of villains and saboteurs who were in pursuit of me, hoping to ruin my life. Received horrid emails, backlash on Twitter, 3 quite serious death threats, computer bombarded with viruses, a technician advising me to buy all new equipment because the malware was tough to remove. Also, be leery of unusual cars or vans in the neighborhood, the tech added. Why? Why? I asked. Well, if someone wants to break into your computer network, he'll need to be close to your house. That is, unless he's advanced skills, then he could gain access anywhere. I hurried home from the hardware store with heavy-duty padlocks, secured the gates at my residence so an intruder or a team of them couldn't access my backyard and possibly my home. I pulled into my driveway and scanned the street, glad that the suspicious white car with the young male driver was no longer present. It had been there on the previous evening, according to my daughter, Kayla. She'd seen it when she returned from work, and she had monitored it for several hours until it disappeared. She did not report the incident to me till the next day. "Mom, why was there a guy in a white car watching our house last night?" I affixed padlocks to the gates, and the phone rang. It was like a gun. Had become a powerful way to terrorize me. I reluctantly picked up the receiver. "We know where you live," a muffled male voice spoke. "Your life will be ruined." He hung up. A caller that morning had called to tell me I'd be raped, tortured, killed. I glanced out the front window. The night, once innocent, peaceful, suddenly dangerous. Logged on to see whether the Twitter backlash against me had ceased. Hadn't. But there was an odd message on my feed which read, "Please follow me. I need to direct message you." The interaction resulted in a bizarre phone call. Just as Enemy of the State protagonist Will Smith got aid from Gene Hackman's off-the-grid former government agent, I was being offered assistance. "Don't worry, we're going to protect you. We're computer experts," were the first words uttered by a man nicknamed Jack, who claimed to be an operative with Anonymous. I knew very little about the famous decentralized network of hacked digital Robin Hoods, so I conducted Google searches during our half-hour phone conversation. Jack told me how to protect my computer network and explained in detail how he and a buddy planned electronically to go after the man threatening me and who had been urging his devotees to follow suit. He then uttered the name of the person who has become the most well-known online face of revenge porn, a man called Hunter Moore. We know Hunter and his followers have been attacking you on Twitter. We will go after him, and we won't stop until he stops victimizing people," he said. I felt better after the call, but wondered if it had been an elaborate practical joke. Was this really the notorious group Anonymous, or was I being duped? Did I have an ally, or would the stalking and emotional harassment escalate into physical violence against my family? I would learn the truth within 24 hours. So how did all this start? Many months earlier, I was drawn into the nasty world of revenge porn. Revenge porn is the online distribution of nude and topless photos without consent in an effort to humiliate, to hurt their targets, mostly females. A picture is uploaded to a revenge porn website by an angry ex-boyfriend or a malicious hacker, usually with identifying information about a woman, such as her full name, city, workplace, social media page, boss's email address, and parents' phone number. Following this, I found that followers of revenge porn websites then may harass the victim, often forwarding the embarrassing photo to her family members, friends, business contacts. This can lead to a loss of economic opportunities, strain or end a woman's personal relationships. At least 2 women have killed themselves over revenge porn, and cyber civil rights initiative studies show that 47% of victims do contemplate suicide. In October of 2011, my 24-year-old daughter Kyla was alone in her bedroom emulating poses from fashion magazines. She snapped over 100 cute and sexy pictures in the mirror with her cell phone. One shot revealed her left breast. She never intended to show the pictures to anyone, but wanted to save them on her hard drive. She forwarded the entire lot from her cell phone to her email and then to her computer. 3 months later, on January 1, 2012, her email was hacked. And 9 days after that, the photo revealing her left breast appeared on the notorious revenge porn site Is Anyone Up? The name of that site, Is Anyone Up? Then she got the phone call. "Kyla, I have to talk to you right now." Kyla's friend Katie was panic-stricken. "I'm at work in the middle of my shift. Can't talk," Kyla said. "This is really important," Katie replied. "You are topless on a website. It's called isanyoneup.com. Kyla was stunned. How is it possible? She'd never given a revealing photo to anyone. Had to be a mistake. Kyla hung up and searched the website on her iPhone. She found the upsetting photo along with her identifying information: helpless, exposed, violated, vulnerable. Who had seen the picture? The site bragged of 300,000 daily visitors. 300,000 daily visitors. Would it be saved on strangers' hard drives? Would it spread to other sites? Kyla was frantic. Kyla phoned. "Something's horrible happened, Mom." I'd never heard about revenge porn prior to the call, but for many months after, I would hear about little else. I canceled appointments, put work on hold, ignored routine tasks, because a naked image rarely comes off the internet unless someone becomes obsessed with its removal. Revenge porn websites operators are consumed with what they do. Anyone who hopes to prevail against them must be consumed as well. I emailed the site owner, Hunter Moore, and asked him to take down the photo in accordance with the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. He refused. I was not surprised. By this time, I'd seen Moore's online TV and newspaper interviews. He called himself a professional life ruiner and described his own site as pure evil. His description: he threw legal letters in the trash, addressed his followers as my children, taking a page from the Charles Manson handbook, and regularly taunted victims, encouraging them to commit suicide. People claimed to be afraid of him. He had no fear of lawsuits. He knew a victim would be unlikely to sue because of a civil suit, and their cost perhaps up to $60,000 or more, and forever link a woman's name with the image she hoped to hide. Hunter Moore said his victims were sluts, asked to be abused, deserved to lose their jobs, embarrassed their families, forever ruined. Below photos on the site, his followers posted crude and misogynistic remarks. Victims were fat cows, creatures with nasty teeth, ugly whores, white trash sluts, whales. The website was not about pornography. It was about ridicule and harm. News of Kayla's topless image circulated. Her job jeopardized. She too feared her boyfriend would learn about the snapshot and leave. When Kayla searched, "Is anyone up?" she made an amazing discovery. Her friend Susan was also featured on the site. Susan was hacked too. I had been a private eye in the late 80s. Up to this point, the media had portrayed revenge porn as a platform for angry exes to take revenge on former lovers, but now I knew some sites had hacked photos. After all, I only knew about 2 victims, and both had been hacked by what I soon learned was the same guy. He went by the fake name Gary Jones. I turned my home office into a command post. I contacted Hunter Moore's publicist, his attorney, his hosting company, his internet service provider in France, some of his advertisers, and his mother's former workplace in Davis, California, where associates pressed for details about Mrs. Moore's son and his venomous website. We'll be right back. We will be right back and hear what happened.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I've got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Welcome back to Passionate Justice. We continue now with Dr. Law's account of how she took down the most vicious perpetrator on the internet of revenge porn. As I shared with you, she said that she had turned her home into a command post, and she continues. I contacted Hunter Moore's publicist, his attorneys, his hosting companies. I even talked to his mother's former workplace in Davis, California, where associates pressed for details about Mrs. Moore's son and his venomous website. I also registered Kayla's photo with the U.S. Copyright Office and spoke to 9 attorneys about copyright law, right to privacy, and options for legal recourse. The consensus was that revenge porn was largely untested in the civil courts, while criminal laws were non-existent except in New Jersey. Within days, I became an expert on revenge porn, and it was not long before lawyers were telephoning me for guidance. My investigation file expanded from 1 inch to 4 inches and then to 8. The contents included personal data about Mr. Moore, his associates, printouts from his websites, copies of relevant articles, and reams of information on other involuntary porn stars who were featured on his site. Kayla and Susan were no longer the only hacked victims. I'd found others hacked And I knew it would be difficult for law enforcement to ignore folks from all over the country who had been violated by the same man. And there was a victim, Jill, a Kansas kindergarten teacher. I knew she was going to be posted. Moore had mentioned it on his Twitter feed, which I'd been monitoring. And he asked his followers if they thought she'd get fired. An hour later, her photos were visible to the world, along with identifying information, including the name of the school where she taught. This was the cue for followers of Is Anyone Up to bombard the principal and school board with Jill's naked shots and crude remarks such as "fire the slut" and "you have a whore teaching your kids." "Is Jill there?" I asked. "The school receptionist. She's in class right now," I was told. "I'd like to leave a message. This is urgent. Please tell her to call me when she gets time." While I was leaving my message, the principal had marched into Jill's classroom, interrupted her lesson. She was told to gather her things and go home, while 5-year-olds watched in wonder. Bewildered, Jill accumulated her belongings, and as she was leaving the building, the receptionist handed her my message. She called me from the parking lot, and that's when I shared the agonizing news. Anyone could be a victim. I gave Jill instructions on how to send takedown notices to Google and other search engines in order to de-index her name from the pictures. I told her to beef up her online presence, joining respectable websites so the disturbing pictures wouldn't appear on the first page. I told her to register the photos with the Copyright Office. Plus, if I get my daughter's pictures off the internet, I will tell you how I did it. Tori lived in Atlanta, and her computer had been compromised by the same man. A medical image of her bloody and bandaged breasts appeared on Is Anyone Up next to her name, workplace, and a link to her Facebook page, her nipples fully visible. "The photo is from my doctor's office," Tori wept into the phone. "I'd just had surgery. How could someone do this?" Tina from Northern California was also a victim. She and a female friend had been documenting weight loss through photos. Some of the shots were topless. Moore had gotten into Tina's email, nabbed the pictures, posted them. "I was horrified," she told me on the phone. "I was at the drugstore and a stranger came up to me, said, 'I've seen you naked.' 40-year-old Kathy, divorced, and she feared losing custody of her kids. 2 children. She had taken extreme measures to dodge the graphic photos depicted beside her name, city, and social media links. Kathy had quit her job, changed her phone number, moved to a new town, and gone back to using her maiden name. She thought she'd erased all traces of her existence. "I don't understand how you found me," she bawled into the phone. "If my ex-husband sees these photos, he'll petition to take my kids away. I'm going to lose my kids. What am I going to do? I can't lose them." Kathy had not been hacked. Her photos had been morphed. In other words, she had never taken a nude shot. Someone had photoshopped her head with an unknown nude body in highly embarrassing poses. It made Kathy look like a veteran porn star. Within a week, I'd spoken with dozens of victims from around the country, and my findings were astonishing. A full 40% had been hacked only days before their photos were loaded onto Is Anyone Up. In most cases, the scam began via Facebook. 12% of my sample group claimed their names and faces were morphed or posted next to nude bodies that were not theirs, and 36% believed they were revenge porn victims in the traditional angry ex sense, although some of these folks were on good terms with their exes and thought the exes might have been hacked themselves. In the end, it was disturbing to realize that over half the folks from my informal study were either criminally hacked or posted next to body parts that were not theirs. Mandy was from Iran, had been hacked by Gary Jones, another name for Hunter Moore, and was as feisty as the tornadoes that you see in the Midwest. Under her topless photo, there were posts such as, "I hope she gets stoned to death." Mandy was Catholic. Mandy had never been a private eye, but she knew how to finagle information, find clues, look outside of the box, compile information for Operation No More. Although she was scared, she worked tirelessly behind the scenes, helping me compile evidence for the FBI. I was in daily contact with a number of victims from Is Anyone Up. Although they felt helpless, frightened, and exploited, they shared a minor joy, a feeling of power that could be exerted at will. We would kick Hunter Moore off Facebook anytime, any moment, regardless of how much effort he expended to compile. Friends, this is because I created an alliance with the executives at Facebook, something that seemed quite remarkable in itself. I had initially contacted Facebook to request that they fund a civil suit on behalf of victims. They had banned Moore from their site and sent him a legal letter because he'd violated their terms of service by linking victims' photos with Facebook pages. Moore responded to their letter with a photo of a penis. He had also put a bounty on their lead attorney. In other words, he wanted nude photos of this man. Facebook execs mulled over my civil lawsuit idea, but ultimately decided against it, thinking it would lead to a slippery slope in which everyone would ask to finance lawsuits. The victims and I repeatedly kicked Moore off Facebook. Victims would phone me, elated and excited. Also, one person from our group knew the CEO of PayPal and got Moore banned from the e-commerce site, hindering his ability to collect donations. I turned my effort toward Moore's Los Angeles attorney. Reza Sina claimed to have no control over his client. My intuition told me that Reza had more control than he acknowledged. The media had been inaccurately reporting that photos on revenge sites stemmed from disgruntled exes. There had been no mention of the hacking or photoshopping. Shortly after I brought the FBI into the picture and gave them Moore's home address, Moore took down Is Anyone Up, sold the domain. The FBI raided Moore's home, or more accurately, his parents' home, near Sacramento, breaking down the front door, confiscating Moore's electronic equipment. A woman I contacted at the Village Voice wrote an article. She telephoned Moore for a statement. He went nuts and threatened, "I'll fucking buy a first-class plane ticket right now, eat an amazing meal, buy a gun in New York, and fucking kill whoever said that." And Hunter Moore soon learned it was me. I received verbal attacks on Twitter, computer viruses, and death threats. Moore publicly announced that he would relaunch Is Anyone Up with all of the original photos, plus the site would be more insidious than before because it would include the addresses of victims, along with driving directions on how to get their homes. I made Moore's home address public on Twitter, which resulted in even greater backlash. The creepy guy in the white car and the odd phone call from Anonymous. It was 2 weeks of this, and then 2 hours after the anonymous call, and I was still wondering if the whole thing had been a practical joke. Kayla was studying near the front window, and that's when she saw it for the second time. "Mar, hey, the white car is outside." "What?" I was in disbelief. I was tired of having my family victimized. I was more furious than afraid, and fully prepared for a mother-to-stalker showdown. I marched out of the front door, unsure of what I was going to do. There was a blonde, curly-haired, 20 to 30-year-old kid in the white car. He was fiddling with something in his lap. I stood in the street. "May I help you?" He looked up, panicked, screeched away. I got 5 of his 7-digit license plate numbers. Next day, Anonymous launched a massive technological assault on Moore, crashing his servers and publicizing much of his personal information online, including his social security number. Moore retreated, becoming oddly quiet. He stopped speaking with the press, probably on orders from his attorney, because an FBI investigation was pending. Although Is Anyone Up was down. I knew there were other disturbing sites and other desperate victims. I began pushing for legislation to protect victims, meeting with politicians. I testified in Sacramento over several Senate bills on anti-revenge porn. I am hopeful that a federal law will soon be introduced. So let me ask you, does Hunter Moore regret the day he messed with Kayla Laws? And you can follow this incredible woman on Twitter at Charlotte Laws, at Charlotte Laws. This is Charlotte's story. This is Kayla's story. They took down the king of revenge porn.